and we are going live right now. But okay, we're live.
Okay, great. Thanks. Welcome everyone to the May 6th meeting of the Environment Subcommittee meeting. Kristen, why don't you start us off with SB 625, the cross-file for which is HV 817, and explain to us where SB 625 stands.
Sure. Would you like to have the reprint with the MDE? Okay.
Please do.
Yeah. No, hold on. It's not ready to come up.
Mr. Chair, I've got news for you. I already won.
Hey,
All right, so
I
we
feel
no
bad.
incentive then, right?
Okay, so I've pulled up Senate Bill 625. The bill came over requiring MDE to adopt regulations and standards that govern the permitting of carbon dioxide capture, removal, or sequestration projects that are defined under the bill as projects that provide or seek to provide for the long-term isolation of carbon dioxide through storage in a geologic formation. So the amendments we have here were suggested by MDE, and both the Senate sponsor and the House sponsor of the crossfile are okay with it, which narrows the focus of the regulations to be specifically for the permitting of carbon dioxide capture, removal, or sequestration projects that utilize biochar or wood vault technologies.
Okay, and I guess our understanding from the sponsor, at least the House sponsors, that covers the type of project that um, I guess motivated this bill. Is that right?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Delgin
Essentially,
Morgan.
you take trees and you bury it. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Delgin Morgan.
Sure. Wasn't this the bill we heard last week about um burying the wood in the ground to prevent the carbon, and you dig a hole 40 feet deep or something, dump tree stumps and roots and things into it, and that would no longer be considered to be a landfill? Is that the same bill?
I
Yes.
think so. Yes.
Yeah. So right now, I think that type of activity would be regulated under the solid waste management regulations. And so this is giving a specific process for these types of projects. It would still be in the solid waste management realm as far as like where the bill is being drafted to, but it is aiming to target a permitting process for these types of projects
No,
specifically.
I just want to make sure I heard. I was correcting myself to make sure I had the right bill. Thank you.
Yep.
Delgin Grammar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to get clarity. Can someone refresh me on what the biochar and wood vault technologies are?
There's someone on the call that can explain that.
I mean, just simply the wood vault technologies is burying dead, um, trees, other types of biomass, and then the biochar, I think, is created through a thermal conversion process to would burn like woody biomass and other types to lock in the carbon. But that's as far as I can go with my explanation.
Okay, thank you.
Delgin Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. This bill gives me heartburn, guys. When I asked the guy if they were going to, he acted like he could dig a hole and cover it back up and everything would be fine. And look, I've buried trees. I've done this stuff all my life. And and this is a problem. And the best, if they're not going to attach a plat and to the deed to say where this took place, it can be a disaster. If I did this on my farm and I passed away, my daughters wouldn't know where it was done. She turned around and sells it. They sell the farm to a housing developer, and he builds your dream home there. And in 6 or 8 months, your house settles 4 inches or 2 inches, and your doors don't shut, and your drywall cracks, and you can't stop it from sinking. Then somebody's going to be suing somebody. This gives me great heartburn. I have to tell you, and and how it plays in the public a little bit. I mean, if I bury a tree and a tree stump in the ground around here and get caught now with the current laws, I get a pretty stiff fine.
And Doug and
And
Anderson, why is that? Because it's considered to be dis disposal, or that's
it's
not permitted?
it's not it's not approved. If I dig up a tree stump and knock a tree down because it blew over and I dig a hole and bury it, I don't know what the fine is, but I know it's serious. And then I understand it's dead trees, but the state of Maryland's paying us to plant trees. Now the state of Maryland wants to pay us to bury trees because they're bad. So
Oh,
I understand the technology and I understand them wanting to do some projects, but I have to tell you, on a wide scale, this gives me heartburn. I mean, I still have a lot of constituents with 35 to 50-foot wells that they're getting their drinking water out of.
mhm.
And you're going to bury these trees and put them in their water aquifer that they drink, their family drinks. I just got a lot of heartburn about it.
Yeah.
And I see that since they've modified it some, it looks like my battle is going to be with MDE over setting up the regulations. But I just want, and that's fine. I'll be glad to talk to MDE about it. But I really think MDA ought to be consulted on it, also be consulted for coming up with the plans also. So that's the only change that I see about. I'm running on here, but I really think MDA ought to be in the conversation about making the rules and regulations. That would give me a little, that would give me a little better feeling about it right now.
So Doug, you're saying your suggestion is that, let's see, in the second paragraph that's on the screen, you would add um, in consultation with the Department of Agriculture, the
And the
department,
and the MDE, yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Department of the Environment shall adopt regulations and standards. Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
that would make me feel better. I know the rest that I talked to you about doesn't pertain to it now that they amended it so much that my concerns go to MDE. I just wanted to share that with you.
yeah, okay. Oh, fair point. Delegate Frazier Doggo.
Yeah, I just have a question for, I guess it's actually directly toward to Delegate Anderson, I'm sorry. So is your concern, just help me to understand this, is your concern that somebody basically, yeah, in an agricultural setting, for whatever reason, trees come down. Those trees have sequestered carbon. So they dig a hole with a backhoe, they dump the trees in, they backfill it, and it's done. So your concern, if I'm hearing you right, is that those trees, as they disintegrate or as they do what they're doing with space in between them, the ground underneath them may shift, and so anything above that could be depressed, or anything built above that could also be depressed or create movement because there's not stability, depending on how deep they bury it. Is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And usually when you're going to dig a hole deep, you usually go to the highest part of the farm and dig a hole deep to get away from the groundwater. But then when you go to build a house, they always want to build the house on the high point. So that's what I get concerned about. When you're looking for a house, you want the highest point, and then when you're burying trees, you don't want to do it in the marsh because the whole or in the near wetlands or lowlands because the hole fills in with water when you dig it. So you need to dig the hole on high ground.
So
So
what is
that's
your
where
second
I
piece?
see the controversy.
Okay, but there's a second piece that I wanted to get to so I can, again, help me understand your position. The second piece has to do with the aquifer or well water. So you're also saying that if it's not marked, then theoretically somebody might try to go in a specific area to put in a well and they would hit all these trees while they're drilling for a well? Or is it the concern that somehow as water seeps down through those trees, they may somehow hurt or contaminate the aquifer underneath?
Well, they could certainly discolor the water or put an odor in the water. I don't, and to me, that's a contaminant. So I do have a concern of the flow of water through that shallow aquifer with this trees being buried here. Now, how far that goes in the aquifer is above my pay grade. I can't tell you that, but
Or
I would
below,
think,
depending on how far they have to drill.
yeah, I don't know how far they would need to be away from it,
Okay.
but I also don't, if it's not a plat and recorded with the deed, who would know where to dig or
Right.
drill for a new well?
Yeah, Duncan, I hear your idea about bringing Department of Ag into this reg drafting process. What if we held the bill and checked with MDE about your amendment idea
Okay, that's
and then
fine
brought it
with
back?
me.
Would that work for you?
That's fine with me. I'm not trying to be a roadblock. I'm just
No.
telling you it gives me heartburn.
Yeah, no, if you've got heartburn, that means, there's an issue here. So let's do that. Let's hold the bill. And in the meantime, since we don't have someone from MDE on the call, so we'll circle back with them and check to see if they're okay with that, and then potentially move the bill with that additional amendment.
And
Um,
if they want to talk about it this afternoon, just give them my cell phone number and I'll talk to them anytime they call me.
okay.
We don't have to wait for tomorrow in this crunch time.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. So that's what we'll do. We'll hold it. And, um, there's still time for us to pass the Senate bill to get it across the finish line. Um, so we'll just, we'll meet again tomorrow or, sometime in the next couple of days. Kristen, does that sound okay?
Yeah, that works. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Next, let's see. Let's go to SB 523, vernal pools. We heard in subcommittee the cross-file HB 701. In subcommittee a few weeks ago, we decided to hold it at that point. SB 523 is before us as it came over from the Senate with the amendments that had been placed on that the sponsor on 701 had suggested. Um, Plus, there was another amendment. So anyway, Kristen, if you could take over from here.
Sure. And what the I'll go to the top. The amendment language was just renaming the bill in honor of Jack Cover from who passed away. And he was from the National Aquarium and a vernal pool advocate. So the short title has been language was added to honor Mr. Cover. And so
Right.
this, as Chair Stein mentioned, this language was discussed in subcommittee several weeks ago. The Senate version came over with those amendments, and which requires the Department of Natural Resources in coordination with the Department of the Environment to create and maintain a list of vernal pools in the state. DNR must establish criteria and procedures for identifying and including vernal pools on the list, authorize the use of mapping or other scientific information to identify additional vernal pools for inclusion on the list, authorize consulting with any stakeholder group as appropriate, including MDE and the University of Maryland. Keep moving down here. So let's see where I was. To identify the vernal pools for inclusion on the list, provide for publication of the list of vernal pools on its website. Subsection C requires the Department of the Environment to designate staff to receive training in vernal pool identification and requires DNR to provide training to those staff. And then the bill, there's language added indicating that the bill cannot be construed to limit MDE's authority to regulate vernal pools that meet the definition of non-tidal wetlands under state law. There are protections for vernal pools in state law that are considered non-tidal wetlands. So that's where that's from.
Okay, any questions as to where we are on this bill? Again, we have the Senate bill. It's already been amended as that we're considering. So the only new amendment would be the in memoriam amendment naming the bill after Jack Cover. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, Commissioner. What had to happen? The fiscal note was pretty high on this before. What happened to the fiscal note?
The way the bill came over from the Senate can be creating the list can be handled by both departments with existing budgeted resources.
Okay, thank you.
In that case, I would move the bill.
I guess first, Kristen, do we have to move the amendment?
The amendment, yeah. So although you're looking at the reprint version, the underlying text all came over from the Senate. So the one amendment you're voting on is to also the language you see here and also the update to the short title.
Okay, well then I move the amendment.
Second.
Okay, Delegate Morgan, did you have another question?
Yeah, I'm going through the reprint here again. What obligates species that depend on vernal pools? Do we have any idea what those species are?
Like certain amphibians and maybe salamanders, other stuff, little shrimp. I'm not really sure of everything.
Okay.
Okay, on the amendment, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's the bill, and we're working off of right now, Senate Bill 523, the bill as amended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the bill as amended, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I count 5? Let's see. 1. Let's see.
6.
6. Okay. 6. Okay. Opposed?
I'll be a no.
Okay. All right, bill passes. So now we need to conform Delegate Hill's cross-file to SB 523 as we just passed it. So would someone like to make a motion to conform House Bill 701?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of conforming 701 to HB 701 to SB 523, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, bill passes as amended. All right, thank you. Okay, then the last bill for us to consider, and it's just for discussion purposes, Senate Bill 225, Senator Washington's interjurisdictional watershed flood management bill. So, Kristen, if you could pull the bill up, please, as let's see, I guess we did, as it came over from the Senate, there was an amendment taking out the Patapsco. We don't need to move on that since that's the version we're considering.
Yes, just that's gonna take me a second because I didn't have the bill version up. So
Sure. In the meantime, Delegate Guyton, do you have a question?
Sure, thank you. I actually had a question about that particular piece of the bill that was amended in the Senate. I know that a few people have reached out with concerns about the removal of the Patapsco from this bill, and so if we do consider this bill, it would be also nice to consider the amendment separately.
Okay. Good to know. I mean, we're not going to take any motions on the bill today. If it comes back up, then certainly, Delegate Guyton, if you want to, propose any amendment to it, you're sort of free to do so. Um,
We're not going on the bill today anyway.
that's correct. That's correct. Okay, so this is the Senate bill again as it came over. We were just talking about that, the way it came over with the exclusion of the Patapsco River. So now it focuses on those four watersheds. And I guess for discussion purposes, I just want to say, to be frank, I mean, during the bill hearing, there is, to me, a lack of clarity as to what the impact of the bill would be. You heard from some environmental organizations that like the fact that now, I mean, I guess the headwaters are added. Carroll Creek, Gwynns Falls, and Jones Falls are already in regulation. Herring Run would be added, plus the headwaters. There's some sense that this would be a good thing environmentally. Then you heard from local governments that were concerned about whether there was a need for watershed management plans to be drafted that were new, impact on development. So anyway, again, reason why we're just discussing this is in part because there's, I believe, some lack of clarity about what the bill would actually do. So, Delegate Guyton, did you have a new
Thank
question?
you. Yes, I do. Thank you so much. And that was my question, is how does this, excuse me one moment. How does this work with the bill we passed 2 years ago that put the work group or task force into place for interjurisdictional waterways? Can you kind of connect those two things for me?
I cannot. Is there anyone on the call who can? I see Matt Stegman from the CPF. Sorry, Matt. Sorry to put you on the spot, but is this something that you can give an opinion on?
I really wish that I could. No, we did not weigh in on this bill.
Okay.
I got a get out of jail free card because I wasn't on the committee then. Wah, wah.
All right.
I don't think I
Fair
was a
enough.
delegate. I don't think I was a delegate then.
So it's on Delegate Anderson.
Yeah. And we don't, yeah, we don't have someone from MDE.
We don't, and there's no cross files with this, right? There's no cross
Correct.
file.
Correct.
So I don't know. For some reason, Delegate Stein, maybe I'm remembering the commission or the task force work group incorrectly. I thought you were on that task force, so I apologize. This was the bill that was led by Johnny Olszewski when he was county executive.
Oh, that one. You mean concerning the management of the
Yes.
regional wastewater treatment plants and water. No, that bill didn't deal with this issue. That
Okay.
bill had to deal with should there be some sort of regional entity to manage our wastewater and water systems, and now there's a new task force set up, but it's a different issue.
All right. And again, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking after this last question. This bill is purely asking for guidance on flooding. Is that correct? Or are there other things that are addressed in this bill?
The bill is expressly designating these four watersheds as interjurisdictional flood hazard watersheds. And a interjurisdictional flood hazard watershed triggers certain development restrictions. And so with the respect to Carroll, Gwynns Falls, and Jones Falls, their watersheds are listed as interjurisdictional flood hazard watersheds, not their headwaters. And then there's also the addition of Herring Run to that list of designated interjurisdictional flood hazard watersheds. And I think that's the question is, it's not clear on what this would trigger next. By putting this into law, the lead-in language says in accordance with COMAR and another section of the environment article. However, COMAR, like I said, doesn't list the headwaters, and it also doesn't list Herring Run. Herring Run is known as an interjurisdictional watershed with respect to waterway construction, like dam construction. But it's not, doesn't have the designation as the flood hazard, which there's certain criteria in COMAR that MDE uses to evaluate whether a watershed should be designated as an interjurisdictional flood hazard watershed.
So, well, thanks, Kristen. Jeremy Baker from MDE has joined us. Jeremy, your timing is very good because we're trying to figure out what the practical impact of SB 225 is. So if you can help us out, we would appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry I'm late. I was double booked.
No problem.
I'm not sure exactly what Kristen ran through, but there is some ambiguity in terms of the language and the COMAR existing law in COMAR. Exactly as Kristen said when I hopped on with the headwaters. If you look at the original fiscal note, there are sort of two varied interpretations as to whether MDE would have to, whether local governments would have to do new comprehensive flood management plans and flood management studies, which would be subject to review by MDE. It's unclear based on the current language of the bill, which I understand is last year's version, what exactly would be required of both local governments and MDE. If those studies and those plans were to go forward and to be reviewed by MDE, there would be additional development restrictions based on the findings of those studies. So whether that would be the 100-year floodplain or the 500-year floodplain, but based on the lack of changes to the original requirements to do those plans and studies by 1990, it's not clear that it would actually trigger any of those requirements. And Senator Washington's testimony before the committee last week indicated that it was not her expectation that those things would have to occur.
Okay, and that even with respect to Herring Run as one that wasn't previously in COMAR?
So that's a good question. I think we would have to amend the regulations. Although Kristen, maybe you can help me out. The COMAR list of interjurisdictional watersheds is for the impoundment and the dam part of the title rather than the flood hazard part of the title. Is that correct, or is it not clear?
Right, so I think I understand what you're saying. So the reference to section 5-503 is just an interjurisdictional watershed that triggers certain review when dams are involved, like waterway construction. When it goes to the flood hazard watershed designation, that seems to trigger a broader type of development restriction more broadly as well. I'm reading it.
But that's my understanding as well.
Okay. Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask, what are those additional those additional development restrictions? Can anybody elaborate about that?
It's basically relating to the downstream impact. I think I know it's in the fiscal note. I'll read the description. Well, here I have it right here, actually. Development is restricted in these interjurisdictional flood hazard watersheds and may not increase the downstream peak discharge of the 100-year frequency storm event and must comply with MDE-approved flood management plans developed in accordance with the Flood Hazard Management Act of 1976.
Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Morgan.
So, Chris, this could Jeremy, this could possibly expand the amount of area covered in the floodplains?
Yes, that's correct, Delegate. It's possible that rather than the 100-year floodplain, the study would indicate that any future development would not have or could not have an impact, a downstream impact in the 500-year floodplain as well, which is a significantly larger portion of land.
Well, yeah, it's huge. Oh, excuse me. It's a much larger body of land, but then how do you square with housing in their statement they're opposed to bill because they're trying to get housing, and then you could go from a 100-year floodplain to a 500-year floodplain, which in these areas could take out a considerable amount of area, even if it did have water and sewer.
That's correct, Delegate. And, you'd be looking at, excuse me, a lot more, flood mitigation, bigger stormwater management ponds, just a lot more expensive in order to try to get housing to meet that requirement.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? All right. Well, again, we're going to hold this. I guess if anyone has further questions, check with the sponsor and/or, MDE. And Jeremy, since you're on, I'm glad you're here also for a bill that we consider which we held because Delegate Anderson would like to discuss an amendment with you. This was for SB 625. And without going back and forth in the details, Delegate Anderson, maybe you just want to explain to Jeremy what your amendment was, and the two of you could connect on the next day or so. That would be great. That was and that's the carbon dioxide capture regulations and standards.
Well, instead of holding up, why don't we just let him call me personally? Unless
Okay.
you all want to hear the discussion. If you all are interested in hearing the discussion between him and I, that's fine.
Well, no, why don't the two of you connect directly, and then just to give Jeremy the heads up that Delegate Anderson does have an amendment idea for that bill that he'd like to run by you. So if Jeremy, if you could get in touch with Delegate Anderson, that would be great.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, that is it for the business of the committee. So, and we've held 625 pending an additional possible amendment. Same thing for HB 817, held SB 225, passed SB 523 and HB 701. So, okay. Thanks, everyone. See everyone shortly. And again, condolences on your loss, Delegate Anderson.
That's fine. Jeremy,